Okay, welcome back everyone, back to the ballroom, and also to those who are viewing online on Iclad virtual platform. We are going to start our next session, which is entitled The Energy Transition from the Chief's Office Roundtable, where we have our industry chiefs discussing high-level strategies needed to meet challenges of the energy transition. For everyone's information, both offline, face-to-face in this hall, and also those who are viewing online, today we have three distinguished panelists, which is Yang Berbahagia Datuk Fazlur Rahman bin Zainuddin, Chief Strategy and Ventures Officer from Tenaga Nasional Berhad, Yang Berbahagia Mr. Ramesh Singharam, CEO of GE Gas Power Asia Pacific, who will be joining us online. And also Yang Berbahagia Mr. Muhammad Nazri Mizayaudin, Chief Strategy Officer of SEDA. And our session moderator is Professor Dr. Naushad Amin of Uniten. Okay, a little bit about Professor Naushad. Professor Naushad is affiliated with the Institute of Sustainable Energy, ISE of University Tenaga Nasional Uniten, where he leads the Solar Energy Research Unit. He is an honorary professor to the Faculty of Engineering and Built Environment of University Kebangsaan Malaysia, and also lead the Solar Photovoltaic Research Group under the Solar Energy Research Institute, SERI, at UKM. After the higher secondary education with distinctions from his native country, Bangladesh, he received Japanese Ministry of Education Monbusho Scholarship in 1990. Accomplishing Japanese Language Diploma in 91, he achieved Associate of Engineering Diploma in Electrical Engineering from Gunma National College of Technology, Bachelor in Electrical and Electronic Engineering from Toyohashi University of Technology, Masters and also on Solar Photovoltaic Technology from Tokyo of Technology, Japan. Later, he pursued postdoctoral fellowship at the University of South Florida, USA, and also worked at Motorola Japan Limited or Freescale Semiconductor Limited for around 3 years. His areas of expertise include renewable energy, solar cells and application development, microelectronics and semiconductor materials. He has many outstanding achievements under his belt in various roles as CTO, project leader, author, and visiting professor. With this, I am pleased to invite our panelists, Dr. Fazlur Rahman and Mr. Muhammad Nazri Mizayaudin, and also Mr. Moderator to take your place at the stage, and also Mr. Ramesh Singharam, who is already waiting online to join us today. So over to you, Prof.
Okay, thank you. Please have a seat. Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and very good afternoon. I think it's already just past 12 noon. We're supposed to start early. Thank you for being with us. Welcome to the 5th International Conference on Learning and Development, ICLAD 2021, which is organized by TNB ILSAS. And this year's theme of conference is Towards Energy Transition, Harmonizing with the New Norm. Already generously introduced by the MC. I would like to introduce myself just a little bit. I'm Naushad Amin from Uni10. I'm working in ISE, Institute of Sustainable Energy, and looking after the solar energy related R&D. On behalf of the ICLAD 2021 Organizing Committee, I'm assigned to moderate this roundtable discussion today, which is entitled The Energy Transition from the Chief's Office Roundtable. Since the massive outbreak of COVID-19 in early 2020, we have been experiencing unprecedented consequences worldwide, even till today. More can be said on the impact of COVID pandemic, but let's not keep our dear audience waited, as we probably are excited to learn from the three distinguished guests, two here face-to-face and one online, who are waiting, I think, eagerly here. Just to give a little bit of introduction about the energy transition. Energy transition is simply moving away from conventional resources to renewables or alternative resources. And as we know that global warming is imminent, is true, we must keep our promise to reduce the temperature by 2 degrees centigrade as we have pledged in COP 2021 in Paris 2015, and the ongoing COP 2026, which just has ended in Glasgow, UK. Just to mention that world's focus is also on the outcome of COP 2026 to transit from aspirations to actions. More breakthroughs are expected worldwide. Ladies and gentlemen, we are well aware that high-level strategies are needed to meet the challenges of energy transition globally as well as locally. So we have three distinguished guests today, two on stage here. Let me introduce on my first left, Datuk Fazlur Rahman bin Zainuddin, Chief Strategy and Ventures Officer, Tenaga Nasional Berhad, Malaysia. And the second distinguished guest on floor is Mr. Muhammad Nazri Bizayuddin, Chief Strategic Officer of Sustainable Energy Development Authority, SEDA, Malaysia. And the third one is waiting online, Mr. Ramesh Singaram, CEO of Gas Power Asia Pacific, who is joining us online from Thailand. There are two parts in this panel discussion. In the first part, every speaker or distinguished panelist will get only 10 minutes with some predefined questions that we have set. And the second part will be just for 3 minutes. Each panelist will give their final comment that we can take back home as a memorable gift. Okay? Okay, let me start. Without further ado, I think I start with first guest. Dr. Fazlur Rahman. We know that TNB's contribution in relevance to Malaysia's national agenda is really praiseworthy. Apart from moving towards enhanced renewable energy generation sources, TNB also focuses on digital grid, smart cities, and HR development through skills and education. Datuk, my first question, however, will relate to your vast experience in long-term strategy for TNB, incorporating the energy transition trends in Malaysia. Question comes here. How do you see energy sustainability of Malaysia in terms of electricity generation in the context of energy transition era, if there is any?
Thank you very much, Professor Naushad. Firstly, I'd like to thank the organizers for having me here to be in this discussion. Quite an interesting discussion, I believe, in relation to the pathway for energy transition in this country. To answer your question, I guess, what are the considerations, I guess, for energy transition or actually electricity considerations of sustainability in the country? Firstly, I think what's important is the energy trilemma, which earlier we heard from the CEO of the Energy Commission. That's always been the primary consideration when we talk about the transition of energy for the electricity sector, balancing the need of energy sustainability with the energy security and energy equity. So that has always been the primary consideration for any country yeah, when we talk about the transition of energy into new sources of energy. And it's no different for Tenaga. Yeah? For Tenaga, given that Tenaga Nasional plays an important role in providing the electricity to the country, into to Peninsula Malaysia, these considerations are also foremost in our thinking. Yeah. So whilst there is that need for the balance of the energy trilemma, what we are seeing here is some opportunities, we believe. Yeah, the time has moved quite significantly. Yeah, over the past few years. Yeah, when we talk about the alternative source of energy or sustainable sources of energy, we've seen the costs of the new sources of generation, such as solar photovoltaics in Malaysia, has come down quite significantly. Yeah, and this trend has made the balance something that can be manageable. Yeah, whereas in the past, when we talk about new technologies, of course, new technology is actually quite more expensive compared to proven and mature technologies. But what we've seen, that as technology progresses, economies of scale have actually been achieved in various parts of the world. These kind of costs of technology has come down. So in that sense, from Tenaga's perspective, the consideration of sustainable electricity supply in the country now can move more towards sustainability, because the options of the technologies that's economically feasible, cost competitive, is coming there.
Thank you. I think very well explained. Thank you, Datu. The second question, how do you approach this energy transition from top down? You are in the top situation now. And what are the strategies you take to reach to your customers? The definition of customers is changing now. It's now prosumer. We call it prosumer because we are putting solar panels on our rooftop sometimes. So what do you approach from top down to approach to your customers or prosumers in terms of energy transition, policy-wise?
Thank you for that question. So when we talk about top down, we talk about as Tenaga Nasional is a public listed company. Yeah, it has in terms of shareholders, multiple shareholders, including some shareholders who are linked to the government, as well as domestic and foreign investors. So when we talk about how we think about energy sustainability, we have to take into account the various stakeholders that Tenaga needs to operate with. Yeah, of course, investors are one of them, the government, the regulator, and our customers, as well as our own employees and also the suppliers, the ecosystem as well. Yeah, so I think that's one of the challenges of being one of the large organizations within the country with various investors and also very much linked to national development. Yeah, so as we start to think about those top-down considerations, of course, we're starting to see the needs of our various stakeholders, and they're very different. Yeah, the needs of our various stakeholders are increasingly moving towards more sustainable energy sources. Certainly, our investors have taken quite a lot of emphasis, have given us a lot of emphasis in terms of ESG requirements, yeah? Environment, social, and governance expectations of TNB. So a big portion of that expectation is what is Tenaga doing for the environment. Yeah? And I think there's something as a power utility company we cannot avoid. Yeah, it is by nature of our business. The implications of emissions to the environment is actually a key aspect of our business, and therefore the expectations of the stakeholders, the investors, etc., is that we need to do our part in this particular area. So as we start to look at those stakeholder expectations, then we translate this into the various strategies that we have within the organization. Yeah, so we develop our strategy, and sustainability, by the way, is not something new for Tenaga. We've always had this element of green energy in the company for more than a decade now. Yeah, and in 2016, we started the strategy that we should call reimagining TNB. Yeah, so we knew that decarbonization was happening. Yeah, so we said that in 2016, Tenaga needs to reimagine itself. Yeah, and this work has continued since 2016. It's gone through various developments externally, and recently in August we announced our sustainability pathway towards being net zero by 2050. Yeah, and how do we actually then bring this down to the organization is that each business entity within Tenaga will play a role towards achieving that. So our business cuts across the value chain: generation, the grid, the distribution network, and to the retail customers. So each business will play a role in respect of achieving or actually moving towards the sustainable objectives. So that's how we actually conduct this from a I guess CEO's office or strategy office top down in a way. But nevertheless, it is not. We don't want to emphasize that it's actually all push driving top down. But what's important is that we get the support from the whole organization. Tenaga Nasional is an organization of about 36,000 employees worldwide, and we believe that in order to achieve our strategic goals, it is important that we mobilize these 36,000 employees. So you want everybody to be involved in this process. Yeah? And I think this is something that I also will be opening up to the organization as we detail out our sustainability pathway going forward. It is a journey, by the way. Yeah. We invite the employees within the organization to be part of this process together with us.
Thank you, Datuk. I think once again, very well explained that sustainability is not a new word, and Datuk office is trying to go top-down as well as bottom-up approach. All 36,000 employees also well aware of sustainability and energy transition. It's a good approach, and hopefully it will continue in future. It is very good news for Malaysia as well, as one of the power producer, the eminent power producer of Malaysia. Okay, we know that you are also now in the pivotal role to identify and evaluate new business areas to venture, exploring innovations and guiding the TNB research, okay, the TNB research, TNB R&D. So I have just a simple question that in the post-COVID situation or post-COVID era, suppose we have more penetration of renewable energy resources, like more than expected. And even the target, as we know, that 25% or 31% by 25, right? I mean, something like that. We always hear about that. So do you feel any kind of changes in your business as usual? Because there will be more renewable energy resources, more small players. Yeah, do you think that it will change TNB's role in overall?
Well, yeah, I mean, the short answer that things change all the time,
yes.
Right? So,
okay.
So the role of TNB as an organization operating in this particular sector will change. Yeah?
Okay.
Now, we've seen that for the past, TNB has been around for since 1949 as a different the LLN. Yeah? So it's about 7 decades already. Yeah. What we are seeing right now is changes that's happened quite quickly compared to what we've seen over the past 7 decades, right? So in the past, it's been largely quite stable. The way we generate electricity, for example, has been the conventional thermal energy. Yes. But this is actually changing. In the past, it's always been central. You have a central planning. You have the generation power plants, large power plants. But in the future, it's more distributed. Yeah. So these things will change. Yeah. These things will change the landscape quite a bit. and therefore also some of the roles that Tenaga will play. Yeah? However, having said that, of course, we would like to be playing a role within this changing landscape. Yeah? Hence, with Reimagine TNB, that's one of those things that we talked when we launched the Reimagine TNB. It was on the back of this view that there's this decarbonization happening, there's this decentralization happening, and digitalization happening. So these are some of those, I guess, drivers that will create the impetus of us to rethink in terms of how we serve the customer at the end of the day, how we serve society at the end of the day, taking into account the need for decarbonized energy sources, and also potential decentralization and digitalization. So as an example, how we've actually changed during this period is that we have started to increase more of our generation mix towards renewables. Today, we have about 3.5 gigawatts of renewable capacity, and going forward by 2025, we would expect to have about 8.3 gigawatts of renewable capacity. In the past, we've actually spent a lot of investment in the power plants, conventional power plants. Today, more of our investment allocation is more towards renewables and to expand those renewables both domestically and internationally. That's on generation side. On the customer side, for example, as we talked about decentralization, right? So what we have done, I think you can see some of our display booths there. We have a subsidiary called G-Sparks, yeah? Which the main emphasis here is actually to provide distributed solar energy resource or rooftop solar solutions for our customers. We do have a reach of 9.5 million customers, Peninsular Malaysia, and we want to actually offer some of the customers these kind of these solutions, yeah. And we see that the take-up has been very good. Within, I think G-Sparks has been operating within the last 3 to 4 years, and today the rooftop solar capacity is about 103 megawatts capacity. So I think that's something that's showing that Tenaga's role has been changing, yeah, and we believe we will continue to do so, and we hope to be able to serve the customers this particular change.
Thank you, Datu. I think the first part for Datu has ended here very successfully. We have got some idea about TNB's role in the neo-energy scenario, and through not only by TNB itself, but also by the subsidiaries like G-Sparks and their role in incorporating more renewables. Thank you, Datu, once again. Then I move to Mr. Ramesh Singaram. Ramesh, are you hearing me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me, Professor?
Yeah, thank you. Okay. You can call me Naushad, no problem. Okay, let me now come to Ramesh Singaram, CEO of GE Gas Power Asia Pacific. Welcome, dear Ramesh. With due admiration to your vast role, I know that I just recently learned about your CV, just to understand your roles. And you have been experiencing so many crucial positions, okay? And also you are watching Malaysia, staying aside of Malaysia in different countries. So I think you can see better our picture here. So my first question comes to you. Do you see the energy transition into renewables and the shift towards a net zero future as an opportunity for GE?
Professor, first of all, I want to thank the organizer for inviting me for this event and also joining the distinguished panel in this discussion. I would echo from a perspective, this conversation that we're having today is being played in different countries everywhere around the world. And why that is happening is because our commitment to climate change. Climate change is a global responsibility that everybody has to take. And I'm really glad that when you think about what it takes, technology alone won't solve this problem. It needs partnership. It is a very local game. I have responsibility for 22 markets, and not all 22 markets are the same, as explained by Dr. Fazlul just now. And part of it is because of the trilemma. And the trilemma centers around what's affordable, what's sustainable, and what's reliable. And when you think about GE's role in the world and our founder, Edison, whenever the world needed something to solve, GE was always there. And when you think about our role in the energy transition, it couldn't be much more evident. And part of that is because from a technology standpoint, power generation produces 41% of the total CO2 emissions. When you think about that, that is a big amount. And when you think about the world still has 1 billion people without access to electricity, and there isn't enough carbon-free energy sources, right? So from that perspective, it is important for us to make sure that the responsibility of reducing the overall emissions is everybody's responsibility as well. As I mentioned, it's a multi-speed problem for us to solve because from a perspective of different countries, their needs are different as well. So from a GE standpoint, we believe that an accelerated deployment of both renewable and also gas power in the form of dependable capacity. And again, there are many other dependable capacity that is available today, but not to scale, that must be able to be deployed to make sure there is sustainable impact in the trajectory of climate change, right? So the short answer is GE has a role to play in this equation. We've always had a role to play in solving the world's problem as well. So again, I've seen this in different countries and at different speeds and so on, but technology alone cannot solve it. We need this forum. And I think I was very encouraged when you look at the problems we need to solve, it is very local. And when you think about the exhibition, I was just listening around the different ideas and innovation that was going on in the different booths. This is exactly the type of events we need to stimulate the discussion around what is our role in climate change. And with that, the energy transition with renewable, with dependable capacity, whether it's gas, storage, pump hydro, and together with a modernized grid. Because when you think about it, the grid was never designed to take in intermittent supply. The grid was always designed to take dependable capacity, and that also has to be modernized. So it takes an ecosystem of a technology to be able to come and provide that to the key stakeholders.
Thank you, Ramesh. It's very well explained that it's not only technology can solve our global warming issue, we need a holistic approach. We need to come from all sides, up, down, bottom up, maybe left, right, but not. So it's a good point made by Ramesh that we need a holistic approach. Now, my second question to you, in your energy transition roadmap, I mean, you are representing GE. So what do you expect in ASEAN region, I'm just limiting in this region. If you see difficulty differently, if you see differently from other parts of the world, do you see different things in this part of the world than other part in terms of energy transition?
No, the answer is no, right? Okay. It is similar. And we would say that even within the ASEAN, you still have different countries at different stages of development. And what I mean by that, you have the countries which are much more developed, the countries which are developing, and the countries just coming into it. And what I mean by that is there are countries which are just using electricity just to get on with their daily lives, right? And then you have another category of countries where they are not only, they've gotten over the daily lives, now they strive to grow. And this is the largest consumption unit countries. They consume a lot of electricity and power and energy to not only sustain life, but also to growth. And then there's another cluster of countries where quite stable service economy, where generation growth is not there, but there they can decide renewable, fossil, hydro, and so on. They give you an ability to do that. So I see that within ASEAN multiplied in different countries in this three speed. And because you have this three different speed, the needs are totally different, right? The needs are totally different. The challenges are totally different. Second point, I would make sure that how I translate, I think the earlier discussions we were having, you see this then in the power development plans. The power development plans of each of the respective countries really outline the desire in terms of the country shifting. So I would say 5 years ago, when you look at a lot of the countries, a lot of the fuel mix were more heavily towards fossil. today, when you look at a lot of the countries, because of market, because of financing, because of sustainability, you see the shift moving more towards a balance towards renewable. By the way, we should support the world in terms of deploying as much renewable the world can afford and the suppliers can supply. We need that. You see that across the board. But at the same time, you're finding that in some of these countries, they also need dependable capacity to keep the system stable. So energy transition is already happening in this region. You can see very clear in Malaysia, it's happening in every place in the region in ASEAN. The question is the trilemma topic comes into very play because that's the reality. And then there's a piece around how do you keep the system stable, and which Tenaga knows very well on this topic as well. So I give you this from that perspective. It is happening as we speak, and but happening at different speeds.
Okay, thank you, Ramesh. I think we'll explain that in ASEAN region, there are different countries with different economic growth. So the answer is no, everyone has their own priority and everyone has their own speed. So it is very, I should say it's different, it's case by case. But Ramesh, one thing it strikes my mind. For example, if renewables takes place, I know that last year it was the share in the whole world, it was 26% was from renewables, including all the renewables. Still 75% or around 75% is conventional. I know that there is still chance for conventional still to grow or still to support our energy ecosystem. So just, it's a personal, like in terms of do you see opportunities still from the gas and oil or the conventional? If you see the opportunity in terms of energy provision, how long you see this opportunity for PE, just to stick to your position?
Yeah, from where I said, again, we go back to the climate change. We say it's a decade of action today, right? So from what we see renewable coming in, by the way, the renewable growth for the next 20 years, 75% of global addition is going to be renewable. We also see a role where with gas, as with the addition of renewable, gas will start playing the role of dependable capacity. And why I say that is because as you bring renewable, the intermittency, the variability, you still need some form of dependable capacity, right? So while the countries switch from coal to renewable, by the way, when you switch coal to renewable, you're actually reducing, in fact, coal to gas, you're actually reducing the emissions by 50%. Right, so gas provides not only as a switching opportunity, but also provides dependable capacity. It provides flexible speed to connect to the grid. And also right now, when you think about gas in a lot of the countries as well, is abundantly available in terms of LNG as well, right? So from a gas power standpoint, we are producing the technology in terms of providing that alternative. As you have renewable, you switch from coal, you switch to gas. Because the benefit is not only on a CO2 emission, but technology from a technology standpoint, the footprint is smaller, the startup time is faster, the financing is quite attractive, and so on. So Professor, when you look at that perspective from our view, that's one thing. And then gas, when you think about gas, it enables future technology. So you move from LNG to more zero carbon fuel in the form of hydrogen, and also ammonia, because those two are coming into play right now. And then as carbon technology, carbon capture technology comes in, gas then gives you that zero carbon fuel alternative technology for the market as well. So for us, we will continue to develop. We have 20, when you look at the global install base, we have 7,700 units globally installed. So for us, from that technology standpoint, it's a big effort on our side to continue to develop the technology.
Thank you, Ramesh. It was very well explained once again. This gas, the opportunity for gas, because it's very, the startup time is very small, and we can quickly start anything. It can compensate the renewables, and it can provide stable electricity to the grid. I thank Ramesh in this for this talk, and then I will move to our next speaker, and I'll come back to you for one of your last comment. Okay, Ramesh, just bear with us for another maybe 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, then let's now move on to Dato Hamza. I mean, on behalf of SEDA, today we have our guest, Mr. Nazri, Mr. Muhammad Nazri. So I'll ask that something. Before that, I would like to introduce SEDA a little bit here. I think all of you know that SEDA, the key role of SEDA is to administer and manage the implementation of renewable energy mechanisms to promote renewable energy, especially solar programs, starting with FIT, NEM, and now to NEM 3.0. And I should say that more adaptive and timely policies of SEDA have brought over huge impact on RE penetration in wider scale across Malaysia. In fact, I myself, after doing research on renewable energy or solar PV for nearly 25 years, now I am thinking to put solar panels on my rooftop because of the policy has changed. NEM 3.0 has given more opportunity, more helping hand towards the middle income class, I should say. It is a very good policy. Okay, my first question to you, Muhammad Nazri, we all say that worldwide renewable energy growth is 45%. Every year we see that over 40% renewable energy growth. And we got, I think, 2020, the largest year-on-year increase, even amid COVID-19 here. So what is your observation about Malaysia? This renewable energy increased, or it has a steady growth or no growth? It's a flat rate since last 2-3 years.
In terms of growth, RE growth, right?
Yeah, my question was the renewable energy growth in Malaysia. We see that worldwide it is 45% last year, even it was COVID-19. So what do you feel that renewable energy growth, is it as parallel as world growth, or it is a flat rate or something?
Basically, there's some positive growth. I see it because previously people are not aware in terms of RE. Because before this, the topic of discussion about sustainability, RE, or even energy transition, it's more focused toward a certain focus group discussion that resonates around academicians, researchers, or even policymakers. But as the world evolves with this pandemic, with even climate change, people are talking more and more about it. People are even talking in terms of the social media. So you are getting a younger generation to even actively speaking about it as well. So you can see there are more and more awareness and also traction towards it. It's getting larger. So on this front, SEDA basically align ourselves and position ourselves with universities, colleges, and also youth associations in order to get them to participate more, to grow in terms of this conscious and awareness towards RE. So one success story I can share with everyone here today is that the ministry, under the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources, together with SEDA as the implementing agencies, we've successfully launched the SAFE program, the Sustainability Achieved via Energy Efficiency. So the end game of this is basically for us to create awareness, not just for the consumers, young and old, for the market in general, not for them to just save money, at least 200 ringgit rebate, for them to aware, but also to show to them they're actually, everyone here is the agent of change towards this energy transition, towards RE. And I think this is where part of my awareness campaign, or even marketing as well, I think I'm glad to share that even the ministry has actually announced that this SAFE program will be continued towards next year. So you see more and more demand there. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Once again, well explained. Everybody is well distinguished and well knowledgeable. So my second question comes to a little bit tricky one. Okay, how about the latest renewable energy transition roadmap for Malaysia, which is supposed to be like RETR 2035.
Right.
So do you have any information to disclose to us that how we are thinking to our journey towards the transition of energy from SEDA's standpoint?
Okay, firstly, the journey towards the RTERO.
RTS.
We previously called it RETA, but now we basically rename it Malaysian RE Roadmap towards 2035. So this is basically to answer the needs of the industry, the market, and also to address the energy trilemma that I mentioned earlier on, with regards to the economic growth perspective, with regards to the energy security of our market, and also last but not least on the environmental perspective. So we hope that this roadmap will address and balance the issue at hand, and also give basically a good solution ahead, right? And more innovative solution from this roadmap I can share is basically probably the continuity of our NEM, the net energy metering. This is also one of the success stories from the ministry with SEDA as the implementing agency, that we want the market in general, not just consumer, but businesses, to actually have their fair share to contribute. So I'm also glad to share here again that the ministry has announced that NEM 3.0 just recently, even to date, we have about at least 200 participants and take up of about 50 megawatt for this program. So demand is huge. Again, it's growing. So basically, hopefully, we'll see this growing increase towards RE. Yep.
Thank you. Once again, I would thank. Now, the question, for example, SEDA is really pivotal. We are small players, for example, small households like NEM, FIT, those are for small household, right? So how do you, like in your roadmap, maybe NEM 4.0 will come soon. I expect that 3.0 is here now. In future, there will be 4.0, something new. So how to incorporate the vast households who are existing, who have rooftop, okay, but they're unutilized. So there should be something, some policy, how to encourage people towards more on solar, towards more on renewables. So SEDA has something for teaching for putting some teaching elements, maybe in school level, on university level, so that our future generation will be more concerned about renewables. Do you have any plan to have a grassroots level, like something like policy to give more from the starting from their school level, they will be more attracted towards renewable solutions, so that we don't have to push through the policies. They will spontaneously come forward to utilize renewables. Do you have anything in your mind, or would you consider in future?
That's a good question. Basically, from us in SEDA, we've very much active engaging, as I mentioned, on the tertiary education level, but also we've engaged certain association like MACRI with our SEDA Seed program to engage especially secondary student on those who are taking the STEM program, right? Science, engineering, technology. So we entice them in terms of, based on in terms of how they can, with the quizzes, so they get rewards from there. So from there onwards, they can see that perhaps this is the way forward, right? We have one world, right? So this is their world for them to contribute. So this is how we plan to entice them. But you're right, perhaps maybe we should go much lower towards a primary level for them to really understand. Perhaps something like what the Japanese education culture create that. So again, this is a culture that we need to inculcate.
Very good.
And additionally as well, to cut across the board, we in SEDA, we have a various training program for us to also not just on a basic level or beginner, but to be more advanced in terms of how we can see things going ahead.
Yes, because we all know that SEDA is overwhelmingly doing policy making for kind of small users like households and 4 kilowatt, 10 kilowatt systems. I think in future generation, our future generation should not be by compulsion. They will go towards the renewables, but they should spontaneously come. I think SEDA would think about those kind of policies in future, apart from this NEM going on. Okay, thank you once again, Muhammad Nazri. I'll move now to the second round, where every panelist will get just one question, or they'll be asked one comment, okay, that we can all take away home, and we can at least remember for next couple of months until the next ICLAD happens in next year. So I hope every speaker can finish by 3 to 4 minutes of time. First question to our Honorable Datu Fazlur Rahman. And okay, how to harmonize all TNB entities? You have many TNB entities. You mentioned some of like JSparks or something. Okay, you have many, I think, many others that we don't know in the scenario. You have stakeholders, you have investors. Even I didn't know that you have foreign investors as well. So how to harmonize among the entities to adopt and adapt energy transition?
As I mentioned earlier, that Tenaga is an organization of 36,000 employees with multiple different subsidiaries and operations across the value chain. Yeah, so quite diverse in that sense, right? I think when we talk about how do you harmonize everybody towards this common goal of sustainability, I think firstly, what's important is actually the reason why. Yeah. I think we feel that reflecting on the purpose of why Tenaga exists is important, yeah. And this is an exercise that we did past couple of years, yeah, where we talk about the corporate identity. What is Tenaga all about, right? And as I mentioned earlier, for the past 7 decades, Tenaga has been providing electricity to the country, literally brightening people's lives. Right? So as we go forward, I think the question of what's next becomes quite important. And I think when we start to think about that literal brightening lives, also figurative as well. Yeah. So we've also actually been able to uplift the, I guess, the livelihood of society. So the question why is very important. It is an exercise that we already started within the organization. So that's the first thing. The second thing is in terms of, I think it's a call to action. Once you actually identified the question why, get the involvement of the organization. It cannot be a centrally top-down, force it down the organization kind of effort. It is something that requires the involvement of people within the different parts of TNB, yeah, at all levels, yeah. Board, management, the executives, non-executives, you know, different business lines, and so on and so forth. Yeah, that's something that also needs to be done. So this is something which, again, we spend a lot of time doing engagement sessions with employees, interaction sessions at different levels, town halls, and so on and so forth, to get them involved. At the same time, also as we do our planning cycles, again, it is, we try to make it as inclusive as possible, so we actually involve the different parts of the organization to bring part of that, to be part of this plan. And I think when we announced our sustainability pathway in August, I think from some of the engagements that we've done, I think I find very encouraged that as we talk to different employees at different levels, there is a strong connection with what we are doing, you know, the sustainability goals of the organization, right? I mean, typically people don't actually think too much about monetary goals, but they think about other more meaningful goals. And I think the sustainability goals of the organization is actually something that resonates well in the organization, and especially particularly the younger groups of the organization, yeah? And these are the people whom we want to harness. We want to actually get involved. We want them to be involved in this process. We are open. I think this is an open process that we believe that will be going over the next 18 to 24 months to start to get this participation, so that, you know, we align everybody around a single goal, a single purpose. We get them involved in part of the process of moving towards that goal, because we've got to set plans, initiatives, actions, milestones, targets, and so on and so forth, get them involved so that they own part of that plan. So that's how we're looking at harmonizing within the organization. Thanks.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Fazlur Rahman. I think it's a great initiative by Tenaga that is all out from top down, not only waiting for the top down, but also bottom up. They're doing many activities, and they're teaching. In fact, this is once we from academia feels that our future generation should be taught well, so that they feel that this is needed for our society. They should not be moved by force. They should be moved by their own will. And now I move to Ramesh once again for the last comment, okay? What could be the key game-changing strategy for conventional energy business entities like GE Power Gas as an example for energy transition roadmap? So what is the game-changing strategy? Just maybe 1 or 2 points in 3 minutes or 4 minutes time.
Sure, thank you for the question. At GE, our priority continues to be staying close and listening to what our customers and what our community needs. And when you think about the whole topic around the climate change, energy transition, that couldn't be more true. In addition to that, we have to stay close to our local partners because we need collaboration. As we spoke about, technology alone doesn't solve this. You need partnership. I think the third piece here I would say is that, GE as a company, our slogan is helping build a world that works. And we have to play the role of a thought leader in terms of putting up publication, educating people about the different technologies. And we've put a lot of publication in terms of, what is energy transition? What's the technology that's available? We've distributed white papers for various countries they're going through, put podcasts out. So we find that our role is not about only selling technology, but also educating and getting everybody informed about what's happening around this topic around climate change and energy transition. So from that perspective, I think it's a big change. Technology has always been our forefront. When you think about technology, we need is from a gas power standpoint, renewable, around pre-combustion, post-combustion. We will always play a leading role in that, and that's always going to be part of our DNA. And then the last piece I would say is we have to play a much more leading role in terms of how we influence the key stakeholders, collaborate with them in terms of the policies and shaping the policies. Because at the end of the day, you have to bring back all of this into something that supports the trilemma, right? Technology must be affordable, it must be sustainable, and it must be reliable, right? And I think you have to bring all of this together, and only policy, partnership, collaboration helps bring all of this together. So for us, it's a big change. Not only wanting to sell, but a partner for a long time.
Thank you, Ramesh. It's true that technology itself does not solve anything. We need a strong partnership among different stakeholders, even in terms of policy. I remember that 20 years ago, in the late 90s, solar PV was below 1 gigawatt. Now it's more than 700 gigawatt total installation around the world. So only the policy I should say that it boosted the deployment of solar PV around the world. Thank you, Ramesh, once again. Thank you for being with us. Now I would move to Ignazri once again. The last question. Just to give you a little bit introduction about some of our ecosystem. In the ecosystem of academia, among the universities now we have collaboration. We do not compete. For example, we try to promote renewable energy through some, projects. Maybe it's funded by MOSTI or MOHI. So recently, UNITEN, UKM, and University of Malaya, we got a project from MOHI at long-term LRGS, which also includes one of the elements to educate youngsters, young pupil, let's say, students, towards renewable energy. So they will using their, gadget or smartphone, smart gadgets. They will learn about the renewable energy from early stage, as early as 10 years old. My question here to you: do you support this renewable energy or energy transition by compulsion or by their own will or spontaneous effort? What do you say? Like renewable energy or energy transition should be enforced, or it should be like a spontaneous act based on the education that we give to our next generation? What do you feel from your side?
I feel there shouldn't be any fear or enforcement towards understanding sustainability or renewable energy, especially when we want to move towards this energy transition, right? So again, what we are actually promoting in SEDA is more and more awareness. We try to educate them, but during the pandemic time, we can't do certain things like roadshows, but we do engage them via virtual engagements, right? With all these universities that we've engaged, for example, with MMU. And we are quite active in the social media, via Facebook, via LinkedIn as well, to educate people across the board.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is something that we think it should be a natural progression that people should actually learn. They want to find out as well what's going on. Because despite SEDA for this year, we just turned 10, our 10th anniversary last September. But you can see that teenagers like Greta Thunberg at the age of 18, even many years before that, they're quite keen, right, actively learning and also trying to promote the change, right? So we are also in parallel moving towards the ever-changing environment, trying to meet the demand of the market on how we can also be partners, a strategic partner towards businesses, towards corporates, and also to assist our policymakers to achieve this, especially when you mentioned about roadmap. We have our target of 31% by 2025, the installed capacity mix, right? From current about 8.5 gig towards 13 gig that we want to achieve by 2025. And everyone sees this, that the power energy sector is the largest, I mean, it's an open fact, it's the largest contributor towards the GHG emission, right? So, but one also must see that not just the young ones, but where we are now, even in this room, one must see that even the transportation sector, not just education, but transportation sector, the manufacturing, industrial processing, and also the urban township planning needs to really contribute together, as you mentioned, Rian Baidato, to be inclusive, to contribute together. So I think this is the part where everyone needs to contribute.
Thank you. I think it's well explained that we need overall approach. I think we are done with the second session also. I would like to thank all the panelists, Dr. Fazlur Rahman, Muhammad Nazri, and Sheikh Muhammad Nazri, and Mr. Ramesh. Thank you so much for joining us. As my concluding remark, I'd like to thank the organizer once again, whose rigorous effort made this thing happen. Hopefully, our audience will take away all those, whatever we have discussed today. The panelists, they have huge experience in their own way. I also learned a lot. I'm from academia. It was a very useful session for me, in fact. So I'd like to thank once again to all the audience, the ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished panelists here, from my bottom of my heart, because they gave their precious time to us to discuss or to share their experience, their views, future energy transition of Malaysia, and beyond, of course, because Malaysia is not aside from any other countries. So I hope that you remain safe and sound, and still pandemic is going on. Take care, and hope to see you again in any next event soon. Thank you so much once again. Thank you, Datu, and thank you, Mr. Nazri. Once again, thank you.